of the World Trade Center.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee. And I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? Were you in the yard with your wife and children, or working on some stage in L.A.? Did you stand there in shock at the sight of that black smoke rising against that blue sky? Did you shout out in anger and fear for your neighbor? Or did you just sit down and cry? Did you weep for the children who lost their dear loved ones? Pray for the ones who don't know? Did you rejoice for the people who walked from the rubble and sob for the ones left below? Did you burst out with pride for the red, white, and blue, and the heroes who died just doing what they do? Did you look up to heaven for some kind of answer, and look at yourself and what really matters? I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? Teaching a class full of innocent children, or driving down some cold interstate? Did you feel guilty cause you're a survivor? In a crowded room, did you feel alone? Did you call up your mother and tell her you loved her? Did you dust off that Bible at home? Did you open your eyes and hope it never happened? Close your eyes and not go to sleep? Did you notice the sunset the first time in ages, and speak to some stranger on the street? Did you lay down at night and think of tomorrow, go out and buy you a gun? Did you turn off that violent old movie you're watching and turn on I Love Lucy reruns? Did you go to a church and hold hands with some strangers, stand in line and give your own blood? Did you just stay home and cling tight to your family? Thank God you had somebody to love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love, and the greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here. My name is Morgan Fogarty. I'm from NBC 25. I'm happy to be a part of the Healing Field Memorial and honor those who died in the terrorist attacks of 9/11. This Healing Field is a community project to help everyone grasp the concept of the number of lives lost on the attacks September 11th, 2001. This field is sponsored by the Antietam and Hagerstown Exchange Clubs, and the proceeds from this healing field will benefit the Parent-Child Center and go towards the prevention of child abuse throughout our community. If you want to purchase one of the flags you see here today, it's not too late. They cost $30 each, and all you have to do is ask someone wearing one of the neon yellow shirts. They can help you out. Right now, I'd like to introduce you to Millie Lohman. She is the Executive Director of the Parent-Child Center. Millie?
Thank you, Morgan. Welcome, and thanks to all of our friends and neighbors who have worked many, and I mean many hours to make this a beautiful ceremony. You see before you a mowed down cornfield, but in a couple of hours, this field will be transformed into the most awesome sight that you've ever seen. 3,000 American flags will soon wave in the wind to represent 3,000 people who died on 9/11. The words of Abraham Lincoln come to mind that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from earth. This Healing Field program is intended to be a source of healing and to demonstrate the sheer enormity of the human loss that occurred in the terrorist attack. This healing field that we will soon erect reminds us that the cost of freedom is not free.
Dear God, you are an awesome God. You are the creator of the universe. You have created all that exists, including each of us present here today. We praise your holy name. You are a God of righteousness and justice. You are a God of love and mercy. You are a God of forgiveness and healing. We praise your holy name. We are gathered here today for a special purpose. We are here to honor you, O God, and to ask your blessings. We are here to seek your forgiveness and receive your healing. We are here to honor the memory of those who lost their lives in the tragedy of September 11th. When we remember the events of that day, we are both deeply saddened and highly inspired. Saddened by the loss of so many precious lives, and at the same time, inspired by the unselfish heroism of people helping people in the midst of the chaos of that day and the days to follow. Dear Lord, it is appropriate that we have gathered here today in a place where many years ago another human tragedy played out its toll of lost lives in a bloody battle of the Civil War. We long for peace and healing that can only come from you. We ask you for blessings and guidance for our nation and its leaders. We ask your blessings and healing for the people of our beloved nation. We ask for a special portion of your healing grace for the friends and families of those who lost their lives on September 11th. May we honor the lives of these who have gone before us by the way that we live our own lives. With your help, O Lord, may our lives be filled with grace, love, and forgiveness. May this place truly become a field of healing. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Left, right. Left, left, right. Left, right. Mark, time. March. Left, right. Left, right. Left, turn. Halt. March.
Right, left, right. Hey! Detail. Hold.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now a few words from John Howard, the superintendent of Antietam National Battlefield.
In August of 1890, 28 years after the Battle of Antietam was fought, the soldiers of that war asked that this place be preserved forever as an act of remembrance of the sacrifice that was made here on September 17, 1862. And since that time, we have been a place to remember, to learn, and to heal. A special place, forever protected, so all people can see where the very fabric of this nation was torn. But then, after years of hardship, returned to become a better nation and a better people. When asked if we would allow the healing field to become a part of this hallowed ground, I thought with the head of a battlefield superintendent and with the heart of a dad. I could only see the good in what this brings. A quiet chance to remember those lost. A chance to be shamelessly patriotic and proud of our nation and of her people. And a chance to help children. Where could we go wrong? We're here to celebrate our heroes, to remember their sacrifice, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Surely we are on the side of the angels today. I've been proud of many things in my 30-year career, but I must tell you, this is one of my proudest moments. Thank you all for letting us be a part of the healing field.
Now Miss Tiffany Hallbecker, Miss Western Maryland, will sing God Bless America.
From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam, God bless America, my home.
For my age, there are 3 events in our history that are indelibly burned into your memory. The first of these is Pearl Harbor. You can remember exactly what you were doing and what you were thinking when you learned of that. The second is the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now, our world really changed after Pearl Harbor. For about 4 years, it really was different, and everybody knew that we were at war because of the rationing and because of all of the women who hadn't gone to work before who are now working in factories. And with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, we learned how tenuous life is, how quickly our world can change. The third event, of course, that's burned into our memory is 9/11. I'm sure each of you can remember where you were and exactly what you were doing. I think that this event may shape our future and change our life and our culture more than any event in our past. Today we have our young men and women in our military in more than 100 countries around the world, and in several of those they are today bleeding and dying so that we can continue to live in this great free country. Life is so good here. We're 1 person out of 22 in the world, less than 5% of the world's population, and we have 25% of all the good things in the world. We need to recognize that this came at a price, that many of our citizens are still paying a heavy price, laying on the altar a great sacrifice so that we can continue to live in this great free country. Remember them, please, on this holiday, and vow with Abraham Lincoln that they will not have died in vain, that this country will indeed have a new birth of freedom, and that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people will live far, far longer than the 228 years that we've been here so far. Thank you all very much for coming to this event today.
I'd now like to introduce you to State Senator Don Munson, who will also share a few thoughts with us about today's event.
I'm very pleased and I'm very honored to be here today to participate in this wonderful event. Patriotism and remembering important people and important events are important to us as a people, and it's good to engage in them. Today we have met at a great Civil War battlefield to remember those victims of September the 11th, 2001. It is both proper and fitting that we meet today on this hallowed ground to remember those horrific events and the enduring pain that has, and certainly always will, accompany them. It has been nearly 3 years now since the hideous and foul events of New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania took place. It has been a lifetime ago to the victims of those events and for this nation. It is proper and fitting to remember and patriotically honor those who lost their lives on 9/11. It is proper and fitting to recognize and patriotically honor the endurance of those who survived. It is proper and fitting to remember and patriotically honor those who risked their lives to save others. And it is proper and fitting to remember and patriotically honor the compassion of all those who supported us, the United States of America, in our darkest hours. So today it is entirely appropriate to erect 2,998 3x5 flags on their behalf and in their honor as we remember them and all that befell them. A healing field cannot take the pain away from 9/11, but perhaps it can help. A healing field cannot lift the spirits so severely damaged by 9/11, but perhaps it can help. A healing field cannot hide the horror of 9/11, but perhaps it can help, at least for one bright shining moment as we stand here today. The events of September the 11th, 2001 marked a turning point in history where we confront the dangers of the future and assess the choices facing mankind. It was a tragedy, an act of pure evil. To quote President Bush, Americans have known wars, but in the past 136 years, they have been wars on foreign soil, except for one Sunday in 1941. Americans have known the casualties of wars, but not at the center of a great city on a peaceful morning. Americans have known surprise attacks, but never before on thousands of innocent civilians. All this was brought upon us in a single day, and night fell on a different world. Let us hope and pray in the words of Abraham Lincoln, and I quote, "These dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, and indeed the entire world under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, and by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from this earth." God bless President Bush in his pursuit of the right. God bless America, and never let us forget the lessons of 9/11. Thank you.
Now from M&T Bank, Mr. Bradley Pingray.
It is a pleasure to be here and an honor to be a part of this event. I was asked to say a few words on behalf of the sponsors of this event, and a few words will be the key part of this. And maybe the best way I can do this is to tell you how we got involved as a bank. Patrick Flickinger called me one day and said, "Brad, can I come see you? I've got this event I want to tell you about." I said, "Sure, come on over." And he did, began to tell me the story of how the Exchange Club was going to erect 3,000 flags in honor of the victims of September 11th. He went on to tell me how it would take place here at Antietam's. And it didn't take long for me to realize what an event this was going to be for Washington County, for all of us. And when he was done, the only answer I could give him was, how do I get involved? What do I do? So again, on behalf of the sponsors, saying it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this, and to encourage all of you to be a part, buy a flag. Don't let this go from your memory. Thank you.
Hey, first I'd like to introduce Alan Bartlett, Congressman Bartlett's wife. Then we have with us Dory Nix, Washington County Commissioner. Dee Mayberry from the Washington County Republican Central Committee. And Sally Taylor and Bud Otis from Congressman Bartlett's office.
Now a few words about the attack of 9/11 by Mr. Art Callahan.
Where were you? Then usually a day or a date or an event. This is the usual question among friends when the subject is history. Where were you on Kristallnacht or Night of the Glass? The surviving relatives and friends of European Jews can tell you. They remember the night that the evil of the Holocaust moved into high gear. Where were you on December 7th, 1941? World War II vets and their families answered that question for me when I visited the World War II monument this past Father's Day. You see, my father-in-law was a World War II vet, a Korean War vet, and a Vietnam vet. And he remembers December the 14th, 1941 for two reasons. First, it was his 19th birthday. And second, it was the beginning of the evil for Americans that was the Great World War. Where were you on 9/11? We don't even need the year to bring the memories of that day that evil visited our nation. The famous country singer Alan Jackson immortalized that date in my mind and the minds of many Americans when he called it the day the world stopped turning. I was in a studio of local TV Channel 25 at 13 West Washington Street, taping a promotional spot for the forthcoming United Way campaign. My wife was less than 3 miles, as the crow flies, from the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. A good friend of mine was passing through the quiet countryside of south central Pennsylvania on his way to Pittsburgh when the numerous emergency vehicles passed him to reach an already downed airplane. And "Let's roll" became etched in our lexicon as a new symbol for fighting tyranny and terrorism. I'll not forget. Oh, I'm healed by the events. I'm healed at events like today. These are healing fields. And yes, it took a while, But my Christian sense urges me daily to forgive misguided people who are funded and urged on by evil terrorist cowards. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. But nothing save losing my mind or my death will allow me to forget the events of that September day. If I were king for a day, I'd decree that every American watch every day those towers in New York City fall. I decree that each and every one of us always remember September the 11th, 2002. I decree that every day when our American heroes and our loyal allies go in harm's way to counter the evil threat of terrorism be considered a day of righteousness and not a day of condemnation or second-guessing our national leadership. My friends, don't ever forget that day the world stopped turning. There are at least 3,000 stories from that day, and in reality, probably more than 250 million stories. You see, Americans everywhere were affected by those events. And of course, I can't tell you all of them, but I do want to mention one short vignette, the story of 343 souls from that day. The police and firefighters story. The events of September 11th changed the world forever, but those events didn't change love. No, on the contrary, they showed us love at its mightiest. The New York Fire Department is equipped to fight fires in buildings from the outside up to 20 stories in height. Simply put, the very best fire equipment ladders will only reach up about 200 feet. Fires in buildings over 20 stories must be fought from the inside. That's up stairwells, using legs and human muscles to transport agonizingly heavy equipment to the location of the fire. The World Trade Center towers were over 100 stories in height, and the fires set by the crashing of those airplanes into the buildings were in both cases above the 56th floor. You see, that was the situation that confronted over 600 fire and rescue men and women of the New York Fire and Police Departments when they first arrived at the North Tower. At that moment, there were still over 16,000 people inside both towers. This was actually before the second plane hit the South Tower. So imagine standing there and hearing, no, you wouldn't hear it, you'd feel it. The second plane hits. So now it's into both towers, up the stairs. Can you contemplate climbing through smoke-filled stairwells while you hear the sound of elevators crashing to the first floor from as high as the 78th floor? They were crashing with living people still inside them. Among the 3,400 plus people that died that day, 343 New York police and firefighters gave their lives in one of the greatest displays of love. Love, my friends. No greater love is there than a man lays down his life for a friend. For those 343 souls and another 3,000 souls, and for 250 million Americans who have a story about that day, I'll not forget. My friends, be healed today by this ceremony. In your heart, may there always be forgiveness, but in your mind, never forget the sacrifices of those 3,000 humans on the day the world stood still.
Christopher Seaton Kramer, Denise Kraft, Robert James Crawford, James L. Crawford, Joanne Mary Cregan, Lucia Bossi,
Dennis Michael Edwards, Michael Hardy Edwards, Lisa Egan, Captain Martin Egan, Michael Egan, Christine Egan, Samantha Egan, Carol Eggert, Lisa Karen Weinstein Ehrlich,
Michael Curtis Fiore, Stephen J. Fiorelli, Paul M. Fiore, John Fiorito, Lieutenant John R. Fisher, Andrew Fisher, Thomas J. Fisher, Bennett Lawson Fisher, John Roger Fisher,
Greg Reedy, Kevin Riley, James Brian Riley, Thomas E. Riley, Joseph Rain, Thomas Barnes Raining, Frank B. Richmond,
James Francis Lynch, Louise A. Lynch, Michael Lynch, Michael F. Lynch, Michael Francis Lynch, Richard Dennis Lynch, Robert 8 Lynch, Sean Patrick Lynch, Sean Lynch, Michael J. Lyons,
Joseph S. Morello, John Marshall, James Martello, Michael A. Marta, Lieutenant Peter Martin, William J. Martin, Brian E. Martina, Betsy Martez, Edward Martez, Joseph Angel Martez,
Cheryl Ann Monyak, Captain Thomas Moody, Sharon Moore, Krishna Murthy, Abner Morales, Ferdinand V. Marone, William David Moscow, Manuel de Moda, Marco Matrani, Iori A. Mushinsky, Jude J. Musa,
Lawrence Nadell, Luke G. Nee, Pete Negron, Ann Nicole Nelson, David William Nelson, James Nelson, Michelle Ann Nelson, Peter Allen Nelson, Oscar Nesbitt, Gerard Terrence Nevins,
More! Ready! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Freeze it!
I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. And the greatest is love. And the greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day?
These people aren't planting flags to celebrate Independence Day. They're here to memorialize the 3,031 patriots who died September 11th, 2001.
9/11 was a very sad day because the people got hurt.
I think it's beautiful as we look at the flags and to imagine 3,000 to blow out here in remembrance of them.
This larger-than-life memorial at Antietam National Battlefield is one of many healing fields temporarily set up across the nation to honor September 11th victims. This one will also act as a benefit for the Parent-Child Center in Hagerstown. To create the display, each of the 3,000 flags were purchased for at least a $30 donation.
We believe that our country was abused on 9/11, and of course at the Parent-Child Center we work with abuse every day to our children. So this is why we thought if we could bring the healing fields and talk about abuse at the same time, it would be a great connection.
The Parent-Child Center stands to bring in about $30,000 from the event, more than any other fundraiser they've done. But volunteers from the center hope visitors to the field will gain a lot too.
We're hoping that those who participated will realize that every flag, that every piece of rebar, and that every red spot of paint that was painted yesterday really represents a person.
In Sharpsburg for NBC 25 News, I'm Brandy Coleman.